Welcome to the Infinite Wealth Podcast. I'm Cameron Christensen, along with our co-host Anthony Faso. We just wrapped up our interview with Rod Khleif, and guys, I got to tell you, we are going to break this up into 2 episodes. Rod shared a tremendous amount of knowledge and insight with us. He's been in the game for a long time, and so we've got 2 episodes with him. Anthony, what is a takeaway that you had, or 2 that you had from the first half of our interview with Rod?
I was surprised. Maybe I shouldn't have been, but I was surprised how much knowledge he had.
Yeah, he had a ton.
And what I appreciated, he focused not on kind of what he does and how he helps people.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't trying to sell. He was trying to talk about how important our mindset is.
Yeah.
Which is, we believe, is super important. And one thing I really liked what he talked about is, you know, we're going to be in the economy. We're in a recession. Things may look a little dire before they look better. And what he talked about, now's the time to get educated. Find what asset class that it is that speaks to you. Start learning about it, because there's going to be some opportunities here. Now's the time to get educated, so when those opportunities arise, you can take action. What takeaways did you have, Cam?
Same. I look at our notes from our conversation with him, and it's just scribbles and notes all over 2 pages of stuff. There was a ton to go through, but what I really liked on the first half of this interview was his idea of talking about happiness versus fulfillment. And what he's talking about is, he says that growing up, we're taught that you have to achieve stuff to be happy. But if you look back on your life, some of the most rewarding times are that feeling of fulfillment. Mm-hmm. And for me, when I look back at some of those instances, right, it's been doing missions trips, right? Mm-hmm. It's doing those types of things where you're giving back, and that's what he references. And so I think it was great. The connection that I made there was, man, when you talk to somebody that's really successful, that's done a great job, that has an understanding of wealth and has obtained some, they've got a different perspective, right? It's not about the money anymore. It's about what they can do to give back. And man, I saw that with Rod, right? He's giving us a whole ton of education. He's not charging, right? He's just saying, hey, here's how you can go do it. Here's some additional resources for you. So, man, great interview. I look forward to you guys to listen to this one, but also part 2. But if you guys don't know who Rod is a podcast host. He's an author and a multifamily specialist and a philanthropist who is passionate about business, high performance, real estate, and giving back. As one of the country's real estate and peak performance luminaries, he owns over 2,000 properties. He shares a little bit about his humble beginnings as a young, impoverished Dutch immigrant, and now he's achieved incredible success. But Rob's going to explain the mindset required to recover from losing $50 million in the crash of 2008 and how he's able to overcome that to the successes that he's enjoyed today. So enjoy this episode.
Take care.
Welcome to the Infinite Wealth Podcast, where we teach clients how to build wealth and create passive income without the risk of Wall Street.
Welcome to the Infinite Wealth Podcast. I'm Cameron Christensen, along with our co-host Anthony Faso. And I'll tell you what, guys, things are getting pretty crazy out there. If you guys are like us and a lot of our clients, you're looking for a safe place to store some cash and capital and waiting for these opportunities that we see that are about to present themselves. So if you guys are interested, make sure you guys reach out. We got a link in our show notes for a discovery call to reach out to us and see how you can get prepared for the upcoming opportunities. But today, we are excited. We've got Rod Khleif joining us. Rod, I want to start off right at kind of maybe some of the meat of this, but I'm excited to hear about, how you were able to create $50 million of wealth, the mindset that it took to get there, but then also you apparently lost $50 million. And I want to talk about kind of the mindset that it took to kind of climb out of that hole and not only get back to where you were, but surpass that as well. So Rod, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. Looking forward to this. So yeah, if you why don't I just get started? I'll go back quite a ways, actually, because I think it'll lend kind of some framework to what we're going to talk about. So I'm an immigrant.
Yeah, perfect.
I was born in the Netherlands, wooden shoes and windmills, Holland, and immigrated when I was 6 years old with my brother Albert and my mother's Vantje. We didn't have much. We ended up in Denver, Colorado, and really struggled initially. In fact, I remember eating expired food. We shopped at an expired food store. We had powdered milk with our cereal in the morning because it was cheaper than real milk. And I wore clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army all the way through junior high school till I finally got disgusted when I was 14 and lied about my age at Burger King so I could make some money flipping burgers so I could buy my own clothes. And I'm sure, people on your show or listening may have had it harder than I did, or maybe even have it harder now with all this economic craziness. But I knew I wanted more. And luckily, my mom had an incredible work ethic. So she babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat. And she was a bit of an entrepreneur with her babysitting money. She actually invested successfully in the stock market and IPOs and also invested in real estate and no formal education. And her first real estate acquisition was a house right across the street from us when I was 14. She paid about 30 grand. When I was 17, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep. I'm like, what? You made 20 grand? This was when 20 grand was a lot of money. You made 20 grand, you didn't do anything? Screw college, I'm getting into real estate. So I got into real estate, living at home. My first year, I made about 8 grand. My second year, maybe 10,000. But my third year, I made over 100,000. This is 1980. 100,000 was a lot of money. And so what happened between year 2 and year 3 that caused me to 10x my income? Well, what happened was I met a guy. I was actually working for him and I was dating his daughter. And he taught me about the importance of mindset and psychology and how really 80 to 90% of your success in anything is just that, your mindset and psychology. Only 10 to 20% is the mechanical stuff we talk about on our podcast. And so fast forward to today, I've owned over 2,000 houses that I've rented long-term in 3 states. I own thousands of apartment units. In 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. And you might say, wow. And I said, wow. And I got a head so big, I could barely fit it through a door. I thought I was a real estate god. And when that happens, God of the universe will occasionally give you a nice little smackdown. Well, that was 2008 and 9. I lost $50 million, like you said. And so what I'm known for, at my boot camps and on my podcast is talking about the mindset and psychology. Like you say, it took that 50 million to lose in the first place, and then what it took to recover from that. So I'm happy to drill down on some of those strategies if you'd like, wherever you want to go with this.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I want to talk about is,
okay.
What was, you said you met a guy at that third year. What was some of the strategies, insights that he's able to share with you, Rod?
Well, the first thing is you really got to know what you want. You've got to create what Napoleon Hill in his book, Think and Grow Rich, calls a burning desire. And so if you come to one of my boot camps, like I said, I was telling you guys before we recorded, I just had 700 people that paid to attend one last weekend with me virtually. And I've got another one coming up in January. But the reason I bring that up is the first hour and a half is spent doing goals. I call it goal setting on steroids, because how do you get anything if you don't know what it is? You got to know what it is you want, right? You've got to know what it is you want and why you want it. So that's the initial piece. And when I lost everything in 2008, I had to reassociate with what I wanted. I got very, very reassociated with my goals and why those goals had to happen. So that's the first piece. Because like I said, you've got to create that burning desire to push through fear or to push through limiting beliefs. When I immigrated to the United States, I didn't speak English and I got thrown into school and I found out what bullies were for the first time. And, I got beat up occasionally. And then, my mom, God bless her, proud Dutch woman that she was, thought it'd be a great idea to send me to school in wooden shoes and those leather shorts the Germans wear for Oktoberfest. So I got my butt kicked again. And then, there were a couple of bullies lived down in the end of our street and she chased them off with a fly swatter. So the next day a butt kicking. And so I came up with this limiting belief that I wasn't good enough. I used to ask myself, how can I show them I'm good enough? And which of course presupposed that I didn't believe I was. And, so a lot of people have these limiting belief systems. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not analytical enough. That was another one of mine. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. And there's a reason the acronym for belief systems is BS, because 99% of them are BS, but we think they're real and they're not. So you got to have that burning desire to push through that, to push through fear, to push through past these limiting beliefs, or maybe just to get uncomfortable. The comfort zone's a nice warm place and nothing freaking grows there, right? So you got to have, like I said, you got to want it. You got to want more to push through that. So it starts with that. Then after that, you get clear on what it is you want. You create that burning desire. You got to make a decision. And when I say decision, I don't mean dip a toe in the water or 1 foot in, 1 foot out sort of a thing. I mean, you're in. Like if an extreme example of this would be if you're going to attack the island, you're burning your ships because you're taking their ships home. Okay, that's a decision. It's done. Okay, and then once you make that decision, you're no longer just interested. You are committed. You're like a train on a track. Now, if you're just interested, you'll get knocked off track, right? And so, that commitment and that decision, that commitment is the first piece. But then really it all starts with taking that first step. And Dr. Martin Luther King said, you take that first step in faith and the next step will be revealed. Lao Tzu said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, but you got to take that step. And sometimes that step can be the most important step of your life. And, I know on your show, I'm sure you get a lot of analytical people that listen like I do on mine. And, as an analytical person, sometimes they have to check off every single box before they make a move. And here's what I would say to you, if that's you listening. And that is, recognize that you can drive all the way across the United States at night with your headlight only seeing 50 feet in front of you. And you'll make it. You may have obstacles, you may have setbacks, but other people have done it before you. It's like that with any business that you go into, be it multifamily real estate, which is what I teach, or single family. I know you guys talk about that as well, but you've got to push through the fear and take that first step. You may not see the whole path, and that's okay. But that's how it works. Here's the key is you don't want any regrets. Okay. Don't fear failure. We can talk about that a little more if you like. Fear regret. Yeah. There was this nurse in Australia, a hospice nurse. Her name was Bronnie Ware. And she took care of patients when they were about to die. And she asked them a question. And the question was, do you have any regrets? And she wrote a book about it. It's called The 5 Regrets of Dying. You know what the number one regret was? Not living the life I could have lived, living someone else's life, not doing what I know I'm capable of. I can't think of anything worse than that. So again, don't fear failure. We actually fail our way to success, honestly. A lot of people don't know this. I've built 27 businesses. And by the way, when they fail, I don't call them failures. I call them seminars. That was a $50 million seminar. It was an expensive freaking seminar, but that's what it was. Okay. It was a seminar. And so I built 27 businesses in my career, several worth tens of millions of dollars, most spectacular flaming seminars, right? We fail our way to success. I got to meet the billionaire owner of Spanx, Sarah Blakely. She's, the women's undergarments that hold it all together,
Cameron knows.
Yeah. And she's a beautiful human being anyway, but I met her at a mastermind and she told me she started with $5,000, by the way. And she was in Forbes. She's worth over $1 billion now, but she told me that her dad used to ask her and her brother once a week, what have you failed at this week? And I thought, what an awesome question to ask your kids so they don't fear failure. So you want me to keep going or you want to interject?
No, keep going.
All right. So the next piece is focus, okay? Focus is power. And wherever your focus goes, that's where your energy is going to go. And so, I will tell you, some of the most successful people on the planet have the highest degree of focus, okay? When you have incredible focus, typically it equals incredible success. But here's the thing, whatever you focus on is going to get larger, both positive or negative, which is really important in what's coming economically, which we'll dig into in a little bit here, because I think there's some serious pain coming for this country. And if you're focused on that, if you get sucked into the crap that they're putting out on the media, which I think, by the way, is going to get a lot worse after the midterms. If there's a political shift, there's a huge, influence on the media. And I think that's going to shift, and they're going to just say things are much, much worse. They're going to make things seem much worse than they even are. So I think that we can expect that. But again, if you're focused on that, your blood pressure is going to go up. You're going to be negative. They asked Mother Teresa, for example, if she was anti-war. She said, no, I'm pro-peace. Kind of the same thing, but you get what I'm saying here. I get kids that call me, or even adults that call me and say, I'm trying to get out of student loan debt. I'm like, wrong statement. Make so much freaking money, the debt's irrelevant. Okay, that's kind of what I'm saying here. Focus is critical. And I don't know about you guys, but even me, I'll be sitting there watching Netflix or some movie and I'm scrolling through social media on my phone, and when you do that, your brain is making these micro decisions every split second, and that kills your focus. Okay, so my podcast just broke 14 million downloads. And I say that as a preface to what I'm going to say next, not braggadocious, but I listen to 2 podcasts. One of them is Tim Ferriss and the other one is Joe Rogan. So I kind of get a little bit of both sides of the aisle. And Tim Ferriss interviews the best of the best in the world at what they do. The best athletes, Michael Phelps, NFL, NBA players, best actors, Arnold, Hugh Jackman, Ed Norton, Jamie Foxx, the billionaires like Ray Dalio, and the CEOs of the largest companies in the world like Facebook. He had Zuckerberg on, and he deconstructs their success. And the reason I bring up my downloads is he gets 14 million about a week. Okay, but anyway, so I started to hear a pattern with the people he was interviewing. Almost all of them meditate. And I'm like, what does meditation enhance? Focus, right? So focus is super critical. Anyway, I just thought that was very interesting. But, the next piece is having positive expectation. We as human beings, we connect through pain and negativity. Here, let me give you an example. If you came up to me and said, Rod, how you doing? And I said, oh my God, I am freaking fantastic. Life is amazing. You take a step back and say, okay, Rod's off his freaking meds. But if you came up to me and said, Rod, how you doing? I said, oh, dude, my back is freaking killing me. I just lost 20 grand this weekend. Woe is me. You put your arm around me and say, I feel you, brother. See, we connect through pain and negativity. So you got to be really, really careful about that, right? We focus on pain and struggle, but here's the problem. Again, whatever you focus on is what you get. And if you focus on what you don't want, what are you going to get, right? So, I will tell you that have positive expectation, decide and declare what it is that you want, and God of the universe will conspire to help you make that happen. But you've got to stand guard at the door to your mind. Okay. Again, there's so much crap out there on the news and the political stuff. Like, for example, in my podcast, I do these clips every week called Own Your Power. I just did one on the power of perseverance. And there's hundreds of them there. And they're super powerful. There's music with them. I'm really proud of them. So, I hope you'll check them out. My podcast is called Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. But even if not me, go to YouTube. Bring in the good stuff. Stand guard at the door to your mind. Bring in the good stuff, the motivational stuff. And it's going to be super important through what's coming. This economic and storm that I believe is coming. The next piece is you've got to pick a vehicle. And if there were ever a time to pick a freaking vehicle, it is right now. You got to decide how you're going to capitalize on what's coming, because I'm going to tell you everything's going on sale, and we'll drill down on it a little more. But you've got to decide, if you're going to do single family, great, go learn it right now. If you're going to do multifamily, go learn it right now. If you're going to buy businesses, go learn that right now. Trade in the stock market, because once we're in the thick of this storm, it's going to be too late. Because you've got to learn it. You've got to understand it. You've got to understand how to evaluate what you're doing. You've got to build relationships. And so I would say get up to speed right now. But that leads me to the next piece. Play to your strengths. Okay. Like in my business, multifamily, it's a team sport, and there's lots of different hats you can wear. Forget about maximizing your weaknesses. You hire, align, or partner for your weaknesses. Like in multifamily, you've got, there are people that find the deals and bring them in and have developed broker relationships. There's the person that analyzes the deal, that loves the spreadsheets. There's, people that are investor relations, creating relationships with investors to, bring money to your deals. There's maybe someone with construction or project management experience, or even management experience of any kind, that does the asset management after you buy it. So there's lots of different hats you can wear, and you need to play to your strengths. Why? Because your strengths are your greatest assets. Don't try to maximize weaknesses. Here's why this is so important. When you love what you do, work is play. Okay, you never work another day in your life, and your strengths are what you love. Okay, so that's a critical piece. The second critical piece is, in anything that you do, you're going to have to influence people, to invest with you, to partner with you, to sell to you, whatever it is. And if you love what it is you do and you're playing to your strengths, you're going to be passionate about it. And that passion will influence people. So super, super important. And that passion is super important because, when you operate from your passion, it's the fuel, right? I mean, it's like what in Jerry Maguire, I think he called it the Quan. You're operating from that passion, and you're inspired. Passion breeds creativity and innovation. It minimizes or eliminates fear, and you're not settling. You're not playing small. So that's why playing to your strengths is so important. And the next thing is who you hang out with, especially in what's coming. Okay. The power of your peer group. You show me your 2 or 3 best friends, I'll show you who you are in every aspect of your life, your relationships, your health, your finances, for sure. And you want to be around people that aren't afraid of your dreams. Okay. And there's plenty of naysayers out there, that out of their fear, fear of failure, or fear of feeling humiliated if you're successful, or even fear of being left behind if you're successful, they will hold you back. Okay. And sometimes it's family. So I'll tell you, love your family, but choose your peers. See, most people, they default to people they work with or people they went to school with. And those may not be the best choices. You need to proactively figure out who you're going to hang out with. Me, I want to be around people that think what I think is hard is easy. Like the weekend after next, next weekend as well, I'm going to a mastermind. The weekend after that, I'm hosting mine. I host the largest multifamily mastermind, pretty sure in the world now. There's probably about 16 billion in assets in there. But I started it here at my house, at my compound here in Florida. I had 16 people come, and there was about $1 billion in assets at that time. And I just wanted to be around people that were, they again thought what I thought was hard was easy. And it was incredible. And this was 3 or 4 years ago. And now it's this massive thing. And so, again, you want to be around people that push you and hold you accountable. When I was losing everything in 2008 and 2009, I was in Tony Robbins' Platinum Partnership. Okay. And at that time, it was like $100 grand or 120 grand all in with travel. I think it's 3 times that now. But I was around people that were thriving through 08 and 09 crash. They're like, get up, you puss, go 50 million, schmillion, go make it happen. Now, that's who you want to be around when the stuff hits the fan, right? And I believe the stuff's about to hit the fan. So who you hang out with is super important. So, if you're not in a mastermind, get around people that are making things happen, like listening to this show, but, go to your local meetup groups, that people that want more out of life. And that's how you make it happen. I've just got a couple more points if you want me to.
Go for it.
Please.
You're on a roll, Rod.
I'm taking notes. This is good stuff.
So the next thing, in fact, I just did own your power clip on this, on perseverance, is that tenacity. It's that persistence. It's that grit. It's that determination. It's not giving up. I remember when I lost everything in 2008, I built this litigation support company. It almost went bankrupt in 2010. And then I innovated. I pivoted. And sometimes, by the way, sometimes you have to innovate or pivot in times like this. I remember when COVID hit, I had 800 people scheduled to go to Orlando. I'm like, holy crap, what am I going to do? They'd already bought their tickets. And so I had to innovate. And that's why I went virtual. I built a video studio here at my compound. And now I've had thousands and thousands of people attend my virtual boot camps. In fact, do you mind if I mention that real quick? Let me just.
I was going to bring it up.
Yeah.
But,
all right. So I've got one coming up January 21st and 22nd. It's 2 full days. It's virtual. You can do it at home. If right now the price is $97, it's going to go up to $400. But if it goes up, if you DM me on any social channel, I'm on every single one of them. They've even got me on TikTok now. If you DM me, I'll get you a code to come for that $97 if the price went up. But I don't sell anything there. So it's 16 to 18 hours of training about, if you want to learn multifamily, if you want to learn how to buy apartment complexes, that's what I teach, or even smaller apartment buildings. It's 16 to 18 hours of training, nothing being sold for $97. I mean, I teach every aspect of this business: finding deals, evaluating deals, picking a market, evaluating that market, building a team, financing your deals, syndication, joint venture, property management. And of course, I spend time on mindset. I was telling you guys before we started recording, my students, my coaching students, my warriors own upwards of 100,000 units that we know of. And I've only been teaching less than 5 years. So I'm super proud of that. I think, in fact, I'm most proud of that next to my kids. And that's because I spend so much time on mindset and making sure that you actually take action with what you learn. But anyway, if you're interested in my boot camp, text my name, Rod, to 72345. Or go to multifamilybootcamp.com. Again, that's Rod to 72345, or go to multifamilybootcamp.com. And again, if the price has gone up, just DM me and I'll hook you up with that $97 price. Kind of a no-brainer. I mean, literally, because I don't sell anything there. So if you're serious about this business, get your butt there. It's not a sales pitch. It's not me teasing you about the business. It's drinking through a freaking fire hose. In fact, I've had thousands of people attend and I've never had a complaint other than the breaks are too short, because I do 15-minute breaks every couple hours. And trust me, they're harder on me than they are on you. But anyway, you got to have that tenacity and that persistence, right? And you just can't quit, even when you're tired. When you go and do a side hustle like real estate, if you've got a W-2 or you're in a rat race, you've got to recognize that you're taking off your employee hat and you're putting on your entrepreneur hat. And as an entrepreneur, you don't quit at 5 o'clock. You quit when you're freaking done. Okay. And that means, having that fortitude and that strength of will and that strength of character and, that bravery and toughness, and recognizing that you're not going to give up. That's the grit. You stay motivated no matter what happens. That's why that burning desire is so important. You recognize that every setback is just feedback. It's feedback. And if you're not getting those setbacks and that feedback, let's be honest, you're not trying. There's no way you're trying. Okay. It's believing in your mission. It's living with that passion and recognizing that feedback is what you need. In fact, you come to my boot camp within 24 hours of coming to my boot camp, you'll get a survey from me, asking you how it went. And I'm looking for that constructive feedback. Of course, 99.9% of the feedback is, oh my God, it was amazing. In fact, if you go to multifamily boot camp, go to the bottom and see the literally hundreds of testimonials that are there, unsolicited. There are hundreds there. But I'm looking for the critical feedback. How can we make it better? What do we do to make it better? Okay. So, anyway, the last thing, this is the last piece, and then let's talk about the economy. Because I think that's really relevant right now. If you guys want, or we can talk about whatever you want, but I thought that would be relevant. So the last piece is gratitude. And you might be like, okay, let's get on with the real estate. But here's the thing. The reason I had 50 million to lose and the reason I got it back was I manifested what I wanted through gratitude. I sat in the recliner behind this green screen here, and I would just be grateful for the things that I had in my life. My beautiful wife, supermodel beautiful, more beautiful on the inside than the outside, my kids, my foundation, my coaching students. And I just do gratitude for a couple minutes. Then I would do gratitude for the things that I want as if I already have them. And sometimes I even get emotional being grateful for things I don't have yet. And I know I lost some of you analytical ones, but this is how I had 50 million, how I got it back. So discounted at your peril is what I would tell you. Okay. You call it prayer, call it whatever you want, but it all comes down to gratitude. Gratitude lowers our blood pressure, makes our heart stronger, brings us closer to spirituality, and it attracts what we want into our life. And again, you can do it through prayer. And so let me share one little story, and then we'll move past this. So, when I was 18 and I was doing my goals, I wrote down, I want to live on the beach. And there's, I lived in Denver, there's no beach in Denver, but I would visualize the palm trees and the sand and the surf. And 20 years later, I built this 10,000 square foot, $8 million home on the beach. Spectacular. On the beach on one side, and I had my boathouses on the backside. It was called a Gulf to Bay. It was sliced through an island, which was unthinkable when I was 18. And so again, when you do your goals, take the lid off your brain. Imagine if you can get it. Imagine if you can imagine it, you can get it. Don't limit yourself. That's the message there. But I worked for this thing for 20 years, and 2 months after I moved in, so 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool at night, and I'm looking up at this testament to my ego, which is really what it was. In fact, let me describe it real quick. So this house had a giant waterfall from the second floor balcony into the pool. You had to walk through the waterfall to get in the pool. Pool was in magazines. It had a wine cellar, elevator, big spiral staircase up through the middle of the house that was custom carved metal. And then on the second floor, I'll land the plane with this. On the second floor, I had aquariums that cost me almost $200,000 that were built around the spiral staircase. That gives you an idea of the house. So I worked for it for 20 years. 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool at night. Pool's changing colors. It's got fiber optic lighting. And I'm looking up at this thing, and I got depressed. And I don't mean just a little bummed. I mean, I was really bummed. I'm like, what the hell? I had the Maserati in the garage and the 2 Mercedes and the boat and the jet skis and beautiful family inside sleeping. What could I possibly be depressed about? Well, when I look back on it, there were several things happening, and I want to share. Number one is, you should never achieve a big goal without having other goals lined up behind it, right? Like the good book says, without a vision, the people perish. And I didn't know what I was going to do next. I had no vision for the future. So that's number one. Number two is, it's never about the goals. You got to have them to create that burning desire. But, like they say, the happiest days of a boat owner's life are the day they buy the boat and the day they sell their boat, right? So it's never about the goals, but you got to have them. And so happiness comes from progress and growth. And so you've got to acknowledge your progress, even if it's minor, even the little things you do every week. I teach this weekly planning process. And one of the things is to acknowledge what you got done, because again, happiness comes from that growth. But the big thing was I was totally focused on Rod, show the world I'm good enough, show the world I matter. Rod. That's the year I went and saw Tony Robbins, because I went and bought some books to get my mojo back. And one of them was his. And I'm like, man, I really like this. This is 22 years ago. And I found out that he fed families for the holidays. And I'm like, what a concept. Do something for someone else. I'm embarrassed to say I had to be 40 to get that memo. But I called my brother when I got back home. I said, bro, I'm coming to Thanksgiving. I'm coming to Denver for Thanksgiving. I was already in Florida. I said, let's feed 5 families for Thanksgiving. And so he called his church, found 5 families that really needed help. And we bought food, and we bought toys for the kids, frozen turkeys, just had a ball doing that. And the third family changed my life, guys. So I go up to this house, and there's this woman in this crappy 1-bedroom, wasn't even a 1-bedroom, with 5 kids. And she comes out, she sees all the stuff on the porch, the food and the toys. She starts crying. Her kids come out, 2 of the older ones start crying. I start crying, and I'm hooked. And I'm blessed to say in the last 22 years, we've fed over 135,000 children here in Sarasota and Bradenton, Florida. And we've done tens of thousands of backpacks filled with school supplies to kids that don't have the basic supplies they need. In fact, we just did, 1,500 backpacks this last August. And this year we're going to do our basket brigade. It's called for Christmas instead of Thanksgiving. But we've done tens of thousands of teddy bears for officers to keep in their car. If they encounter a child, they can, comfort that child, child been in some trauma. And I don't say this to brag, but there's a message in this. We've been taught to achieve to be happy. Like we can't be happy until we've achieved, right? Well, I'm going to tell you, when you give back in any fashion, you are happily achieving. And I know it's a play on words, but it's an important one. Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. Achievement's a science. You want to learn multifamily, get your butt to my boot camp. You'll learn multifamily. I'll give you the map and the blueprint. You just got to go do it. That's a science. But fulfillment is an art. You've got to find out what juices you. For me, it's kids. Maybe for you, it's animals or the elderly or the environment, whatever. And give back right now. Don't say, okay, you got money, that's why you do it. No, I did it when I didn't have money, okay? You do it right now because the money will come faster. That's the way God or the universe works, right? And so, but give back now so that you're happily achieving and you're fulfilled, okay? Anyway, I'll land the plane there.
Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on the next episode. Also, check out our website, infinitewealthconsultants.com, to find our podcast along with other additional resources.